Hello and welcome to the Rolex 24 at Daytona, giving you my first of 4 6-hour updates of the race. As it stands right now, we've run 6 hours, the full length of a Watkins Glen endurance race. There have been 207 laps turned as I'm looking at the board. And in this video, I'm going to give you an update of each of the 4 classes as some very loud Porsches go by, starting with the DPI category. Now, there's only been one full course yellow in this race, and the pace of the race has been blistering. Despite this, we've seen some great battles, and really none more intense than what we've seen in certainly GTLM, but also in DPI. The number 10, Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac, leads right now over the number 31 Cadillac, and then in third place, as the board stands right now, we've got the number 6 Acura, which I picked to win the race. Now, the dominant car in the category so far has been the number 77 pole-sitting Mazda Team Yost entry. But Kamui Kobayashi for number 10, Wayne Taylor Racing, has been absolutely dynamite, really doing a great job to get that car up front and really taking the fight to the Mazda. The really big story from the DPI category was the coming together of the 55 and number 7 Acura. So going into the bus stop, 55 did a big send driven by Harry Tingle into the side of Helio Castroneves, and it looks like, at least unless there's some seriously wacky stuff happening, the 77 is going to be out of the race, or the 7 is going to be out of the race. There are several laps down after repairs were made to that car. So then we go into LMP2. Not much to say about LMP2, to be honest with you. The class has been dominated by the Pre-R1 Mathiasen Orica, number 52. That was the big story of the kind of going in, was whether or not Ben Keating could win 2 classes, P2 and GTD. He's not quite as close in GTD, but boy oh boy, is a 52 putting an absolute stomping on the category. GTLM, now this is it's probably been the most competitive of all the classes. The intense fighting has really taken place in DPI, but the GTLM class has been where the competition has been the closest. Currently, the 24 BMW leads the race. Now, I picked the 25 to win, but unfortunately the 25 ran into some issues with an oil line, and they are essentially, for all intents and purposes anyway, out of contention to win the race. We've really seen Porsche in the daytime dominate. Now as the sun is set, seems like the BMW is coming up into the fight. And speaking of BMW, and unfortunately, speaking of the 25 car, I was able to talk to Colton Herta. He's been on the channel before, but I asked him if he would give some insight into what the GT Le Mans battle was going to be like, and as well, since I had him, ask him a couple of IndyCar questions, and then we're going to move on to talk about the GTD category.
So to talk about GTLM in our first update video of the day, I've got a pretty well-informed guy. This is defending winner of the GTLM class, Colton Herta. Of course, you probably also know him as the guy that got handed a bottle of booze after he won his first IndyCar race at the tender old age of 18. Colton, today you really have struggled a little bit, I think, your team. You haven't even gotten in the car yet, so I can't really blame you too much. But the BMW team seems to be a little bit far off right now in terms of pace. How are you guys expecting to mitigate that throughout the night? Do you think, because your car is a turbocharged engine, do you think you might get a little more help in the conditions later on?
I'm sure maybe some of that, but I think I don't know what it is. The dynamics of the car, the wheelbase, it just works better in the cooler temperatures. And I know everybody says that because downforce works better in the cooler temperatures, engine works better in the cooler temperatures. So, but it's just something about. I can't quite put my finger on it, but just the make of the car just performs better in cooler temperatures. It performs really well in the wet, which you guys saw last year. So, no, it's I think these first few hours really mean nothing as long as you're not crashing or going laps down. Just try and keep up with the pack and do what you can, save the brakes, and try and save the car when you can. And then go from there. I think once we hit nighttime, will be really good. We'll be able to run a softer compound of tires, and it should be strong.
One of the major stories that I was kind of talking about, kind of following this entire weekend, has been the change in the GTLM class. No more Ford, and then Porsche and Corvette, which are two of the front-running teams right now, they have brand new cars. And I actually ended up picking your car to win this race because of the fact that your BMW M8 has proven that it can go 24 hours. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the strategy especially when you've got a new car or maybe several new cars in a class that you now have to contend with, and maybe the rules makers haven't quite looked at everything or found everything that they can really gain a significant advantage from, and certainly the reliability of your car, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, we've never broken down in an endurance race. I don't think any race they broke down last year, so we haven't had any problems with the car. They've done numerous tests back 3 years ago when the car was first starting out, numerous 24-hour, 48-hour tests with the car, and yeah, they built an incredible car. The biggest thing for the manufacturers is Porsche's got it's not completely brand new. I think it's like 95% redone, and then obviously the Corvette's completely brand new. So you know, it can be tough. This is the toughest race we do, and it's the first one, so they don't have time to figure out the problems. So, you know, it is very possible that they will drop out of the running and possibly have some problems. I think Corvette actually did have some problems when they did a 24-hour test here, so you just have to wait and see. But, you know, I think the cars are about as close as you can get them, or I've seen them. So the competitiveness should be there. I think everyone's kind of chilled out right now. We don't really care where we're at until probably 4 or 5 hours to go.
So maybe describe a little bit. Obviously, your full-time job is a slightly faster, slightly less weighty, higher downforce car. What does it take for you as a driver to transition over to a GT car from an Indy car?
It is. It's very different. And I'd say the biggest thing, too, is the brake travel on this car is longer. And it's a little bit softer of a pedal. And then also the seating position's different. Not only are you not laying down, but you're sitting up, and you're sitting up quite high. So you see quite a bit more and closer to the front end than you do in the IndyCar. So it is a little different. The transitioning is not really that bad because I've driven this car quite a bit now. So I'm able to go back and forth, although I did... I think got about 6 laps before the start of the race, so I think I'll still be learning a little bit when I get in the car, and then we'll see where we can go from there.
So transitioning to IndyCar now, you made a pretty big announcement this offseason. You're moving up to the big Andretti team. What kind of changes has that kind of required of you, and what are your expectations for this season going forward?
I think there's a lot of changes. I don't think I've ever worked with that many people in my life. There's probably about 150 people in the factory, so it's a lot of people, a lot of names to remember. So it's definitely a big ask to step right up and step in and get working, but they do a phenomenal job. Saw that last year, and to get even more help this year and be a full Andretti driver is going to be incredible. And I hope by the end of the year, by the end of this season, the last race, I'm hoping that I'm in contention for the championship. Doesn't matter how close I am, I want to be in contention.
So one of the major keys last year, one of the major stories, was the incredible rookie class that you were a part of. Rosenquist, Ferrucci, guys like that. It seems like we've got another really strong rookie class going into next year. Are some of those guys, have you raced them in Europe before or possibly elsewhere? Who are you kind of looking to have a big season next year that maybe some of our viewers don't really think could have a chance at this point?
I think probably the biggest guy is Palu, just because people don't know him that well. He was had a quiet career in Europe and then moved to Super Formula, and he's very fast in that. And I think you can see if you can win a race and get poles like he did over there, it's pretty incredible, because he's seen the type of guys that go over there and struggle, like Van Dorn, who obviously is overshadowed by your favorite driver, but he's still an incredible driver, and he only got 1 win there. So there's plenty of good guys. Obviously, everyone knows about Askew and Renus, and is there another?
If you want to classify Pato as a full season guy.
I don't think he is classified as a rookie.
Really?
Yeah, I think you got to do 4 to 5 races, and he doesn't make it in the cut because he did enough races.
But now you have to compete against him in a full season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been competing against each other since we were probably like, I think we raced against each other when we were 10 in go-karts. So I've been racing against him for a long, long time. So, but no, I think obviously the Indy Lights guys are going to be, I expect to be strong. I think McLaren is going to be good. It's going to be interesting because they do have 2 young guys. It's going to be interesting for setup-wise to see what they do for that. And obviously they got a pretty stout engineering camp over there, so I don't think they'll struggle too much. But yeah, I think the biggest surprise you might see is Paolo, just because not a lot of people know him.
All right. That's the scoop from Colton Herta, running the number 25 BMW Motorsport M8. Going to be watching, you're going to get in the car about 10:30 tonight, right?
10:30 to 1, and then 6:30 to like 8:30, somewhere around there.
All right. So watch for him then, and we'll head back to GTD.
So I hate to say it, as again the Porsches come by, I kind of feel like I probably jinxed Mr. Big Chungus Colton Herta. Feel bad about it, but unfortunately that's endurance racing. I'm really thankful for him for providing that time. And now let's talk about the final class, GTD. So many cars in this class. There's so many stories going into it. Currently, the number 63 WeatherTech Racing Ferrari leads the class, but in second place, believe it or not, my pick to win, the number 54 Black Swan Racing Porsche sits second in the class. And what an amazing story that would be, going from a wrecked chassis, having to borrow one from Wright Motorsports, get it built back up, not be able to qualify, start at the back and win the race. Couple more incidents to talk about in the GTD category. Grasser Racing, the number 11 Lamborghini, which has won the last 2 races in GTD, is out of the race right now. Now, they're not officially retired, but they are currently last. Overall, 38th position. They're still in the garage. They're still working on that car. The most significant and the only cause of the first and only so far, full course yellow, was the number 23 Aston Martin. As they came into the pits, made contact with one of the Lamborghinis. That car is KO'd, out of the race. And again, it was the only cause of the first full course yellow of the race. Now, traditionally, a lot of people talking about the full course yellows and why there aren't so many this year. Well, it's a short field, 38 cars, and believe it or not, that's actually a small field for a race like this. So less cars means less traffic, means less opportunities where cars are going to run into each other out on the racetrack. Traditionally, in races like this, there's usually about 1 full course caution every 6 hours. We'll see if that continues throughout the day. So, this has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more Rolex 24 at Daytona action. Fan meetup, I'm believing it's going to be in the International Horseshoe. Stay tuned for an official announcement on that, and we'll see you in the next video.